A $150 million police chase, an immediate dismissal, and a hidden price tag fans never see. Georgia moved fast on Nyer Daniels, but why did zero tolerance make more business sense than patience? In the next few minutes, I'll map the exact financial buckets: scholarship value, NIL exposure, recruiting yield, donor confidence, PR legal costs, and on-field opportunity costs. I'll also show how swift discipline can cap long-term losses and the one counterintuitive lever that can actually turn scandal into roster ROI. Quick benchmark cases included for sanity checks. Let's lock the facts first, then price the fallout. Here's what's verified from police reports and major outlets. On November 23, 2025, Georgia redshirt freshman lineman Nyer Daniels was arrested in Commerce, Georgia, after an alleged high-speed flight from police. Commerce police say speeds exceeded 100 mph in a 25 mph zone and reached around 150 on Interstate 85. According to AP reporting and an incident narrative obtained by ESPN, the chase began when Daniels' mother, Brandy Canada Green, was initially stopped for a traffic violation. Daniels, driving a BMW, passed at high speed. Officers pursued, then terminated for safety after losing visual on the interstate. Daniels' two younger siblings were in the vehicle. No injuries were reported. The reports say UGA staff facilitated Daniels' surrender. A UGA official brought him back to Commerce, where he turned himself in. AP notes booking on multiple charges: felony fleeing or attempting to elude, and 2 felony counts of second-degree cruelty to children due to the presence of minors, plus numerous traffic misdemeanors including reckless driving and speeding. ESPN also cites officer observations, including an odor of marijuana, and dismissive comments when warned about danger. Bond was set at $21,000 for Daniels and $11,000 for Canada Green, per jail logs reported by AP. On November 24, Kirby Smart announced Daniels' immediate dismissal. He said he hadn't yet spoken to Daniels or his family, but confirmed he'll no longer be with us, per AP and ESPN. Daniels appeared in 3 games as a reserve this season, with no starts and 2 years of eligibility remaining. Financially, the timing matters. Late season headline: at a program already under past scrutiny for speeding incidents, with NIL normalizing and revenue sharing pressure rising. In that environment, response speed isn't just optics. It manages donor confidence, recruiting trust, and NIL sponsor stability. With these facts settled, let's put dollar signs on the consequences. To price this, we'll separate sunk costs from reallocatable value and focus on opportunity costs over a 2 to 3 year horizon. I'll use conservative public benchmarks and clearly label assumptions. Scholarship value: a Georgia full ride is roughly $35,000 per year when you add tuition, room, board, meals, and fees. With 2 years left, that's about $70,000. Now, the common mistake is treating this as a pure loss. It's not. The cash budgeted for that scholarship doesn't vanish. It's typically reallocated to a walk-on or a portal transfer. Financially, the cost is less the scholarship itself, and more the friction and timing risk of replacing the roster spot efficiently. NIL exposure: exact NIL figures for reserve linemen aren't public, but within SEC collectives, 6-figure ranges for rotational trench players aren't unusual. Given reporting that Georgia's collective operates at an 8-figure annual spend, a reasonable band for a non-starter OL would be about $100,000 to $200,000 per year. Over 2 years, that's $200,000 to $400,000. Some deals may include morality clauses or clawbacks, which can reduce net outflow. Still, you should budget a 20-30% friction cost in the system from pausing, renegotiating, or rehoming deals. Call it $50,000 administrative and relationship cost. The upside: dismissal typically reassures sponsors faster than a suspension, which can limit broader brand pullback. Recruiting impact: this is the biggest swing factor. Incidents that tie to speeding and program culture narratives can nick yield, especially with parents of linemen who prioritize stability. A small shift, say a 2 to 3 percentage point drop in yield, or a couple of decommit scare moments, forces expensive staff redeployment, rapid home visits, added evals, and contingency B-board offers. Non-conservatively, assume $150,000 in incremental staff and travel over 2 cycles. The real cost is talent delta. Missing on one blue-chip OL and landing a lower-graded replacement can be worth several expected points of win probability over 2 seasons. If a 1% win probability swing is worth mid-6 figures at a playoff-chasing program, when you include media units, ticketing, donations, and CFP exposure, then a compounded 2% swing can push into low 7 figures. I'd frame a reasonable band for recruiting impact at $1.5 million to $3 million over 2 cycles, primarily as opportunity cost, legal, and PR. Even if there's no NCAA evaluation, compliance review, counsel time, and crisis communications add up. A tight response keeps this contained. Reasonable envelope: $100,000 to $200,000, including external PR guidance, donor briefings, and counsel time on statements and policies. Immediate dismissal tends to cap this quickly. Donor and collective pipeline risk. Big programs live on confidence. A 1 to 2% wobble in pledge timing or sponsor comfort can have six-figure effects in the short term. The faster the discipline, the faster the rebound. I'd budget a $200,000 transient drag that normalizes if the program communicates process and prevention clearly. Opportunity cost on field. Depth in the trenches matters late. If the lost body forces higher snap counts, injury risk can tick up, indirectly affecting win probability. Counterpoint, a swift reallocation to the portal can net a higher impact contributor. Treat this as a range around 0 with a tail, minus $500,000 if replacement lags, plus offset if you land an upgrade. Add it up. Scholarship, $70,000 reallocatable. NIL, friction, $50,000 on top of $200,000 rehomed. Recruiting, $1.5 million to $3 million. Legal/PR, $100,000 to $200,000. On-field tail, minus $500,000 to neutral. The conservative midpoint clusters near $4.5 million to $5.5 million over 2 to 3 years, mostly opportunity cost. The reason the number isn't higher is Georgia's immediate action, which shortens the PR half-life and steadies sponsors and recruits. Now, to validate these assumptions, we'll pressure test against comparable cases next. To sanity check the bands we just built, let's look at 3 reference points and extract what actually moved dollars. First, Georgia's 2023 fatal crash aftermath. Different gravity, but instructive on process. Slow, reactive communications extended the news cycle, pulled attention back to program culture, and forced months of defensive messaging. The financial tell wasn't a line item fine. It was the drag on recruiting yield and the time tax on staff. Programs learned that clarity and speed shorten half-life. Applied here, Georgia's immediate dismissal contains the PR runway, which limits donor wobble and reduces the chance of parents asking, "Is this a pattern?" Next, Oklahoma's approach on reckless driving. In cases where the player wasn't dismissed but faced proportionate suspension, costs stayed local, minor NIL reshuffles, a week or 2 of added recruiting reassurance, and minimal donor unease. The lesson is proportionality and continuity. When the conduct risk is lower and the player is central to on-field outcomes, a targeted suspension avoids overpaying and roster disruption. But when the facts escalate, triple-digit speeds, minors in the car, the tolerance for wait and see drops fast. With sponsors and parents, swift, decisive action becomes the cheaper path. Then the Ruggs/Alabama era context. Even though it's pre-NIL, Alabama's brand weathered the storm, but national media intensity spiked and out-of-state recruiting took a measurable hit before rebounding. Importantly, NIL inflation today magnifies that sensitivity. What used to be a few $100,000 in opportunity cost can quickly scale into low millions when collectives and sponsors get skittish. That's the inflation lens we need to keep on. Pulling the thread through Daniels, a reserve player, immediate dismissal, and staff-assisted surrender. The reserve status caps on-field exposure. The time to action caps PR exposure. Together, those factors narrow the downside. The wild card is the portal era. If you can convert the freed scholarship and NIL bandwidth into a plug-and-play trench piece, you create an on-field hedge against any short-term recruiting dip. That's why our midpoint clusters around $5 million, not because of cash burn today, but because delayed or muddled responses in similar cases have shown how quickly opportunity costs compound when recruiting, donors, and sponsors start asking culture questions. If you're running a department, here's the playbook you can use tomorrow. First 24 hours, get facts, not takes. Legal triage confirms charges and timelines. Compliance logs actions. Crisis comms crafts 3 messages tailored to recruits, families, donors, and media. What happened, what you did, and what guardrails are in place. Keep one spokesperson. Avoid speculation. Publish a clean timeline and move to weekly cadence only if the story lingers. Parallel path, NIL partners. Brief the collective lead and key sponsors quickly. The action taken, any contract implications, and how you'll reallocate resources toward on-field needs. Where morality clauses allow, win down individual deals cleanly and redeploy budget to high-need positions. Document it. Sponsors care less about perfection and more about process. Reallocation protocol. Treat the vacated scholarship and NIL bandwidth like a mini-cap space event. Update portal board by positional scarcity and scheme fit. Pre-clear academic and character screens. Aim to secure 1 to 2 targets who raise your too deep floor. Speed matters. The faster you upgrade the depth chart, the more you blunt on-field opportunity costs and the easier your donor conversation gets. Donor communications. Frame it as values plus performance. We acted quickly, we reinforced standards, and we're reinvesting to protect the season. Show dashboards, not vibes. recruit yield week over week, portal conversion rate, sponsor retention, injury adjusted win probability, recruiting recalibration, get in front of parents, send position coach and head coach for targeted home visits. Use simple scripts, what changed in your process, how you monitor off-field behavior, and what supports exist. Driver education refreshers, wellness resources, and mentorship check-ins. Provide artifacts, a one-page policy brief, and a schedule of touch points, so families leave with evidence, not promises. Media velocity control, one voice, one set of facts, zero guessing. If new facts emerge, update the timeline once. Then go quiet. Over-communicating invites fresh cycles. KPI dashboard, track commit stability, portal hit rate, donor pledge timing, NIL sponsor retention percentage, and incident to decision lag time. Review weekly for a month, then monthly for a quarter. If two metrics wobble, escalate touch points immediately. Here's the part most people miss. Low impact dismissals can be net positive if you reallocate fast. By freeing a scholarship plus a six-figure NIL slot and redirecting to a portal-ready guard or tackle, you can create a 2 to 3% win probability lift, which for playoff aspirants is worth 7 figures of media value, ticket demand, and donor enthusiasm. The reason this works is the compounding effect of trench depth on practice quality, injury insulation, and late game efficiency. Scandal becomes cap space when it's ethically managed and transparently communicated. Georgia's swift dismissal did what it needed to do: stabilize recruiting parents, settle donors, and reassure sponsors that standards outrank depth charts. A suspension with counseling might have balanced discipline and support, but given the facts, triple-digit speeds, minors in the car, prior scrutiny on speeding, waiting would have been pricier. In a revenue-sharing world, rapid discipline is a financial control lever as much as a cultural statement. It capped the downside and created reallocation options. Cold, but effective. If you remember nothing else, remember this: cost control in crises comes from response speed and smart reallocation, not from hoping the headline fades. If you want the dashboard I use to track yield, portal ROI, and sponsor retention, and the reallocation checklist that turns chaos into cap space, watch the next video and subscribe. It'll save your program money when the next crisis hits.